Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
Everything we think we know is a lie.
Yeah.
History, who we are, where we come from, our religions, our food, our medicine, what this world is, quite literally everything is a lie. And that's why it's so difficult to ever really discover the truth and to wake up the people around us, because all of the information that we're even researching, most of it, has been falsified. That is why people are constantly locked into different belief systems, why they continue to argue with each other, and why they continue to perpetuate their divide and conquer programming. Because in everything that they're looking at and all the information that they've got, they never even factor in the reality. In any investigation into the past, which is invariably where we look to find out what happened and what brought us to this point, most of the information that we glean from old books about historical figures has been doctored, rearranged and rewritten, and in some cases it's actually even doubtful that many of these people even actually existed. In many cases, works were attributed to people who didn't do those works. In many cases, discoveries were most likely attributed to people who never made those discoveries. Many events were simply fabricated, and many people simply did not do what we were told they did. And as I said, in the case of many of them, it's doubtful that they ever even existed.
For most people, everything in their lives is false. We grow up being surrounded by well-intentioned adults that tattoo our brains with their old and outdated mentality. We are guided towards destinations that others choose for us, and we blindly accept this because we trust that the mature figures around us know better. We reach a certain age where we start to put into practice everything that we've been taught, and so we proudly enter into the 9-to-5 elite, who works to pay the bills and who lives for the weekends. Unaware of our capabilities, we pursue the cycle of working almost 50 years for somebody else, building someone else's dream. We become so detached from ourselves that we ignore any sign that our system might give us, as something is not right. We lie ourselves at the end of each day that we've done enough at work, and in the evening we deserve to get a taste of the comfortable lies that media has prepared for us. We open our ears and eyes to superficial entertainment, and we ignore the real struggle that some people are going through in the world. We consciously choose to live a life dictated by the flashy and shining advertisements, and so we buy into their consumerism scenarios. We stack our fridges with so much food that we don't make enough time to cook, and at the end of the week we throw most of it out. We are wasting huge amounts of food that so many on this planet would be thankful for. We've grown so attached to the collective mindset that we're afraid and embarrassed to go against its senseless norms. Why should I start reducing waste and recycle my garbage if others aren't doing it? Why should I focus more on ways of preventing pollution if others are not doing it? Your example matters, and you can start to dictate new and healthier trends. Ignorance has reached such high rates that most people are living in their bubbles of limited and square perspectives on the world surrounding them. Have we become so narrow-minded that we are not able to see what is really happening on the planet? Have we become so self-entitled that we take our lives for granted? When did we become so ignorant? Just take a step back and look around you. While you're crying for more likes and hearts on social media, children are crying for food and water. While you're sick and tired of the cold weather, people in Australia are struggling with disastrous bushfires. While you're blaming life, others would wish to have more life to live. We've been instilled with fear from the early stages of our childhood, and this carried on into our adult life. We're frightened at the thought that maybe the truth we've been served is not that true after all. We are scared of the unknown truth, so we decide to keep living the lies which we even end up defending as the permanent truth of life. We don't want to be finger-pointed by others if we try to do things differently, so we bow down to society's elites that use us to fulfill their superficial and maniacal goals. We refuse to open our mind to the possibility that maybe there's something else outside this narrow box of preconceptions and beliefs that we're living in right now. Every move we make is directed by the hands of greedy puppeteers who only want to gain control of the masses. Just look at how politics are made. Just look at the games they're playing with our lives and how we consciously accept them. In the end, we're the ones that vote for them. Politicians have understood that with instilling fear comes control, and this is what they're using in their campaigns. And what do? We're peacefully falling asleep as they're telling us their false stories with fictitious enemies, terrorists, and viruses. We pride ourselves as modern humans who live in modern times, yet we're still not able to accept different ideas and mindsets. We judge everything that's not aligned with our view, completely rejecting the possibility that diversity is a positive thing. We act as if everything we're living right now will last forever. We postpone calling our parents or friends to tell them how we truly feel, as if they're going to be near the phone ready to answer our call at all times. Life is limited, and it lasts more or less for each of us. Nobody gets a notice when this life will end, so stop postponing. Look at all of us, complaining about back and neck pains. Most of us spend so much time looking down at our devices that we completely ignore what we're actually doing to our body. We're so busy being social online that we forget how to talk to a real person, face to face. We fill our heads with unreal stories about what happiness should look like, about what a fulfilled life means, and we're on a constant hunt for others' approval through a like or a good comment. Why can we be smart about our smart devices? Why aren't we using this incredible tool to spread useful and healing information throughout the world? Why are we letting technology use us instead of us using it? There's so much going on in our environment that we choose to ignore. Nature's balance has shifted so much in the past few years, and we're the only ones to blame for this. We focus so much of our attention on building and developing technologies that we forget to take care of this humble yet important servant, which is our nature. We take so much from it, but we seem to never give anything in return. Look at all the deforestation we've done. Large areas of forests are cut down to make enough space for the urban tentacles to spread. We're not only killing vegetation that's important for removing carbon dioxide from the air, but we're also supporting greenhouse gas emissions. Deforestation is the second leading cause of climate change. We've polluted so much of our planet's lakes, rivers, seas, and oceans, and we're so amazed when media shows us how some people are struggling with murky, smelly tap water. Did you know that there are people who have to use contaminated water for their daily lives? In 2018, the Environmental Working Group showed that some 14 million Americans are using contaminated water with a cancer-causing industrial solvent. Did things change? No, they didn't. Why are we not seeing this? Have we become so self-centered that nothing around us matters anymore? What are we teaching our children? To satisfy their needs without paying attention to what effects their actions can have on the surroundings? We need to open our eyes and act before things degrade even more. It doesn't matter what we've done so far, either good or bad. We can now start from scratch. There is always something that can be done to restore the balance. We can change the world, even though one step at a time. It's not politics or media that will make the change. It's us, the people. Little by little, we can create new trends to show those that choose not to see that the planet needs our help. We can start small, because every step we take in the direction of caring more about the impact of our actions can lead to bigger changes. We need to take full responsibility for everything that we do in our lives. We can't keep waiting for others to make a change. We have to act now. At this very moment, we could be anywhere in the world sitting and thinking about ourselves. We could be watching TV from our comfortable couch, while also looking down at our smartphones to see how many people have liked our posts. We could be complaining that our internet is too slow, or that new episodes from our favorite soap opera are not on Netflix yet. We could be doing anything that makes more or less sense for our life. But what are we doing for others? We take and take and take from life, but what are we giving back? We take amazing photos of a green and blissful spot of nature in our trips, and we proudly share it on Instagram. But are we doing something to keep it green and blissful for others to see as well? We like to talk about the good deeds that we're doing on holidays for kids that need help, but what are we doing for them in the other months of the year? Their lives will not change with just one present. So what is the legacy we'll leave behind for our kids? There is so much that we can do to leave behind a clean and beautiful world for our descendants. So many people before us have done amazing things for our current comfort, like inventing the wheel, electricity, airplanes. the light bulb, and so many other things that we seem to take for granted nowadays. People have worked hard to make them happen, so why not do our part of the work as well? Why not create something now, so that those who come after us will have something to be proud of? Why not remain in history as the generation that made a world a better place?
People think that hypnosis is some mysterious, esoteric thing, and it's not. It's just simply a mental transaction in which a person has focused their attention
to a complete hypnotic state. How do you wake someone up who's addicted to television? You can't. Very, very simple. You can't get your daily brainwashing where literally it's bypassing any consciousness in the person. You can't take that every day and still try to wake up and learn at the same time. I've known people who've gone through complete withdrawal from television and gone into depressions because their entire routine is broken. They also have time on their hands, which is a big aspect of control, remember too. If you can take time away from a person who can think for themselves, who might say, oh, I'll go and read a book, I'll go and study something, or if you can take that time away from them and have them mesmerized in front of a television set, then you'll keep them dumb, stupid, compliant, and going along with the system. I always advise to people, if you know someone who's watching TV, it's quite simple to find out where they are mentally, psychologically, in the understanding of things. You can ask them a few simple questions. If they give you standard television answers, forget it. Simple as that, forget it. If you see some spark of their own opinion coming in, there's maybe a chance you can do something with them. But you cannot get up. You see, television, it can be classified as a drug.
You see, television, it can be classified as a drug.
Dr. Michael Persinger is a professor of psychology and neuroscience. He is designing ways to put the power of mind control to good use.
He is designing ways to put the power of mind control to good use.
Similarly, using the appropriate fields, we can induce fear and apprehension, but clearly that would be unethical in that setting.
Similarly, using the appropriate fields, we can induce fear and apprehension, but clearly that would be unethical in that setting.
Dr. Persinger's tests suggest that carefully programmed electromagnetic frequencies can tap into individual brains and influence people's emotions.
Electromagnetic frequencies can tap into individual brains and influence people's emotions.
Anything that's in motion tends to remain in motion, right? Okay, so I have something, and I'm taking it around counterclockwise. And see, and what Newton said is true. It just wants to go around and around and around and around and around. This particular thing is called a cell. It is not, it's clear plastic, there's nothing in it. Okay, now I'm going to take it around clockwise. It says, no, I don't want to do that. It's just like my children. I will do it my own way.
How did it go the other way?
Precisely.
And remember, Carol, all of it is a lie.
99% of all the information out in the public on this subject is well-crafted disinformation designed to scare people to support the next phase in global warfare. And this kind of corruption is why the only things that are being made on this subject are things that redound to paranoia and fear in the military-industrial complex.
Understand that those criminals have been keeping information and technology from us under their blanket of national security. They are 25 years ahead of us at least, technologically. Can you imagine what they've got now?
And part of what they're testing are the effects of these electro-optical devices on a target population.
And the target population may be us.
America has to test American equipment.
the ultimate weapon in the info war would be so secret, so invisible, so undetectable, you would never know your mind was under attack.
Most people kind of in the back of their mind know there's something going on, but it doesn't have anything to do with football or basketball or my paying my rent, so I don't want to fool with it. It's not important.
Yeah,
but everybody kind of feels there's something going on.
Yeah, because most people live in a box, and they don't want to come out of the box.
No doubt about it.
They open the lid every so now and again and just peep outside and they close it.
Yep. Government is going to stage some kind of a UFO landing. Is going to frighten everybody, and all the nations will come together and collectively come together as a trick.
Like a War of the Worlds.
Yeah, like a War of the Worlds.
Right.
And it's all going to be a trick, he thinks.
Right.
It's all going to be planned.
What if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet?
Here's how it's done. The initial electrical charge comes from one of the large ships, probably generated by the fan/coil engine. The charge travels along its spine and electrified pathways onto the next craft behind it. This craft relays the charge to the next one, and so forth, until the charge is funneled to the smaller ships hanging lower to the ground. Boom. Pick a target. It was an act of God.
The owners of this country are the voters of this country.
You're wrong about that, my friend.
Aren't the owners of this country the voters in this country who elected George Bush?
Not. Listen, politics, these elections are a charade. It is a charade.
Okay.
They are meant to... I'll tell you, just listen for a minute. Learn a little something. The elections and politicians are in place in order to give Americans the illusion that they have freedom of choice. You don't really have choice.
Which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process.
Social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debate. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the censor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas.
And why is that? It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum, and he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. He has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor.
The elites can prevent the masses from waking up and realize that they are living in a prison. We are basically free-range slaves.
Well, I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. But seeing right now, within the last months, how far, how the German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia. This is a point of no return, and I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I have done in the past, to manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past, because they are bribed to betray the people, not only in Germany, all over Europe.
The history has been twisted. The news are giving us a biased view of the world. The music industry is brainwashing us with stupid messages. The documentaries are lying at us. The elite controls all we see and all we watch. They are cleverly manipulating our worldview to turn us into controllable and ignorant beings, to keep the masses subjugated, as indispensable to make them live in an illusory world. Otherwise, they could find out their condition of slaves. The elites need to create a fake reality to give them the illusion they are free.
Ballistic missiles, chemical or biological weapons, chemical or biological attack, nuclear holy warriors, nuclear program, nuclear weapons, nuclear weapon, nuclear technology, biological, chemical, or a nuclear weapon.
Thanks for coming. The cognitive processes of the human brain are really quite simple. And if you understand how they work, you can make entire populations think and decide the manner in which you wish.
If you understand how they work, you can make entire populations think and decide the manner in which you wish.
a senior scientist from Lockheed Martin. I have been a senior research engineer for Howard Hughes, Texas Instruments. Nevertheless, we've been working for some time now in order to determine where the next energy levels are going to come from. Now by that I mean we aren't talking about wind or solar or even atomic. We have other formats of energy that we've theoretically proven that are available. Not only that, but there have been significant developments, and many times the things that we look at and call UFOs are really some of the developments that we've been involved with.
And many times the things that we look at and call UFOs are really some of the developments that we've been involved with.
That Lockheed has been involved with?
That were open. Looks pretty good to us down.
So, are these some of the UFOs we're seeing? You believe are ours? They're United States military?
Well, Area 51 is literally where the majority of the things that we call the black program were developed, and many times sightings would occur directly associated with them. As I conducted tests, every now and then nature would not give us what we wanted, but it gave us something else.
Something else.
And I would sweep it under the rug because it didn't match theory.
So
and after a while I said that is not honest. That is not proper. You must record the data properly. And indeed, once you record the data, then you start modifying the theory. Einstein's work is only a slight modification of Newton's work. But we do understand that Newton's work has, well, Newton's work, for example, Newton says anything that's in motion tends to remain in motion, right? Okay, so I have something, and I'm taking it around counterclockwise. And see, and what Newton said is true. It just wants to go around, 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 around. This particular thing is called a celt. It is not, it's clear plastic, there's nothing in it. Okay, now I'm going to take it around clockwise. It says, no, I don't want to do that. It's just like my children. I will do it my own way.
How did it go the other way?
Precisely. A Newton's law.
Is that because of the rotation of the planet, or?
It's a man named Grebennikov from Russia. Grebennikov was kind of a non-conventional scientist. He was an entomologist, did a lot of work with bugs, entomology. And his favorite thing was to go out into the steppes of Russia and into the various outer hinterlands and camp out in the summers and study his favorite subject. And on one of these expeditions, he started seeing some weird effects. This is all explained in great detail on the AchilleNet site if you type in Grebennikov and his flying box or gravity platform. But anyhow, the result of this was to show that he found a certain bug that didn't fly, it levitated. And this was, he'd put this bug into a little vial or something, and he saw this vial jumping up off the lab table, jumping up and down. And of course this is patently impossible based on any time of normal physics, so he got into this, and he found out that the bug wings themselves were creating an anti-gravity phenomena under certain conditions. And of course what we have here, if you analyze, I think I found the bug, actually a beetle. And if you analyze this bug structure you see a hexagonal pyramid structure array throughout the entire bottom wing of this bug. Turns out that beetles have two wings. The top wing is called a wing cover, and what the beetle does is it lifts this wing cover up, and then it flips out its lower wings, or inner wings. Now the bug cover protects the inner wings, but when it gets excited or something, it flips these other wings out, and it flaps these other wings, and the other wings, the inner wings flap a little, and this beetle goes gyrating around. They can't fly very good, but they sure levitate great, I guess. And anyway, he took a whole bunch of these bug wings, and he glued them to like a Venetia blind structure, and he put it into a little platform he built. So they were all, these bug wings were all covered in here. And he used I theorize he used the wing covers as well as the inner wing itself. There's also a kind of a handlebar on this thing with some controls. You can see the thing a little better here in detail. The controls, I think, had to be manipulated continuously and probably vibrated to create the same action that the bug was doing. There was also down at the base some kind of a lever, which I suspect controlled the amount of lift he was getting out of this thing. Anyway, Grebennikov claimed that he could fly this thing or levitate it, and it would go around at almost 1,000 miles an hour. Now you ask, how can that happen? You know, well, he said that there was an energy field that built up around this thing due to this gravity field building up in the platform, and by this thing building up, it built out a force field that basically surrounded him and protected him from the local environment. So even though he was flying at 1,000 miles an hour, you could go, you know, you could be wearing your Sunday best suit and not get it flutter a bit at 1,000 miles an hour. I'm not sure I'd want to stand on something going 1,000 miles an hour that's 2 feet square. But this picture here shows him sitting on the ground. And these pictures are much better if you get on the KeelyNet site. This is the platform with him on it about 3 to 6 feet above the ground, because here's the shadow here down below. Now you could say this is all faked, but if you get into the other things he did with shape, they almost mirror the stuff that I discovered, and it proves, I guess, that there's either two crazy people in the world, or there's two people that have found the same discoveries. So I think that this is a valid phenomenon, and I'll show you why. Next slide is a micrograph that I took of a beetle inner wing. This is at 100x. If you look closely at this thing, you can see rows of bumps all along the bottom of this wing. Each row is staggered from the next row next to it. And this is all over the surface of the bottom of the wing. Now, I don't know of any aerodynamic surface that has bumps all over the bottom to help it fly better. If you blow this up to 430x, you can start to see some of this microstructure of the cells that form where these bumps are. The next slide, at 970x, you start to see what these bumps that stick up are. They're hairs, look like hairs or fibers that grow out of the center of these hexagonal cells. And of course, this harkens back to my basic shape power discovery, is that each one of these, because of their shape going down to a point, is creating a magnetic field. And remember, a magnetic field is a rotating piece of vortex in the ether.
Does Lockheed Martin, or does anybody, possess working anti-gravity technology right now? Or are we still trying to understand how these ET craft are working? Have we reverse engineered the technology at Roswell successfully? Which would mean some of the UFOs we're seeing now that are silent and hovering.
I've given you the Lazar tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as far as I can talk.
Okay. That's good.
It's only because I got the Lazar tapes from a White World forum.
Right.
And
but you can't say anymore.
Well, people kept encroaching on Area 51, such that Area 51 is now being moved to Tooele, Utah.
But here's one thing. This makes sense to me. If you can cancel out gravity in a falling body, and you can even reduce a percentage of the effects of gravity for aircraft, it would take less fuel. They would be more efficient, and they could hover with less energy, and that much I can figure out.
And the atmospheric edge of the Earth will be meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to see a picture of the nuclear-powered aircraft?
Oh, yeah. What's the date on this one?
I refuse to say, but there's the nuclear pile that actually flew.
That hunk of junk right there flew?
It actually was in the belly, providing...
Oh, that was in the belly of that?
That's right. It's just like in the belly of a submarine.
Providing anti-gravity. So it's shaped like an aircraft.
Well.
It's aerodynamic. So that we don't think that it's not using its wings.
Well,
I get it.
It has an energy source, okay.
I understand.
And it is staying in the and here's what it looked like down inside of the protective. It was.
And that's at Area 51?
No, much closer than we'd care to admit.
Oh, Texas. Well, I mean, Lockheed, of the contracts here, was in the paper this morning, $27 billion in the last couple of years. Most of the majority of the defense contracts are here in Texas with Lockheed. I mean,
well, certainly. No. That's why I don't mind having a retirement from them. And here was one of the old-time developments.
Oh.
Now, I happen to know the guy who put that together.
Mm-hmm. How far does this date back? Mach 1.2?
I know it doesn't say, but in actuality, it's way back. The first, we must be at least 30 to 40 years.
And
we have all kinds.
Because bullets were only 1,500 miles an hour back then.
We have all kinds of things out there.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
A fake alien invasion, aka Project Bluebeam. Now, I know this one is a stretch. I'm just talking about something that I read about, and it's this thing called Project Bluebeam. And the idea behind it is it occurs in 4 stages. First, it's a controversy with the Russians. The second stage is a controversy with terrorists, aka Al-Qaeda and ISIS. The third stage is conflicts with third world countries, aka North Korea. And then finally, the 4th stage is the fake alien invasion. Now that's Project Bluebeam.
How do you grow the $1 trillion military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned about into a $2 or $3 trillion program? You got to have a bigger enemy out there.
Von Braun's purpose in life during the last years of his life, his dying years, was to educate the public and decision makers about space-based weapons. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. In 1977, I was at a meeting in Fairchild Industries, and in that room were a lot of charts on the walls with enemies, identified enemies, names that people had never heard of, names like Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. But we were talking then about terrorists, the potential terrorists. No one had ever talked about this before. And they continued the conversation about how they were going to antagonize these enemies, and that at some point there was going to be a war in the Gulf.
According to these theorists, after the military-industrial complex had its war against terrorism, the next enemy that Dr. Von Braun identified on Earth would be third world country fanatics. But with no more enemies left, the people would soon be taught to look to space.
The next enemy was asteroids. Now at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids, we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card and remember, Carol, all of it is a lie.
99% of all the information out in the public on this subject is well-crafted disinformation designed to scare people to support the next phase in global warfare. And this kind of corruption is why the only things that are being made on this subject are things that redound to paranoia and fear in the military-industrial complex.
The Morrises are experts in non-lethal weapons technology. They are consultants to the Defense Department, CIA, NSA, and world-renowned think tanks.
The technology necessary to project three-dimensional images to a point in space requires no new breakthroughs in science. We have the technology now.
Overall, the non-lethal weapons development program is aimed at giving our military options between talking and shooting.
Specific system development, we really can't talk about.
But the Morrises did talk in general about secret military experiments with lifelike 3D projections in the sky called holograms.
Holograms on a battlefield would be to divert the attention of the enemy, to deliver propaganda or something very frightening to make the enemy run away if you think that he will believe that what you're sending is really an angel, a devil, a UFO.
And where could this type of weaponry be tested? Perhaps not coincidentally, along the US-Mexico border at the Army's electronic proving ground in Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
Keep in mind that test facilities like Fort Huachuca in Arizona are electrical optical test beds, and part of what they're testing are the effects of these electro-optical devices on a target population.
And the target population may be us.
America has to test American equipment in America.
The ultimate weapon in the info war would be so secret, so invisible, so undetectable, you would never know your mind was under attack. At Laurentian University in Ontario, Canada, a young student is about to undergo one of the strangest experiences of her life. They're hooking Denise's brain up to an electroencephalograph, or EEG machine. For 30 to 40 minutes, this will monitor her brainwaves, while these electric coils attached on either side of her head will immerse her brain in an electromagnetic field. her brain actually completes the circuit between the two coils. The field pulsing through her brain is less powerful than one given off by a digital clock radio, but acutely controlled and focused at specific parts of the brain, it will open Denise's mind to outside suggestion by this man.
We're going to do a switch to see if it's right left hemisphere. Use your final temporal.
Dr. Michael Persinger is a professor of psychology and neuroscience. He is designing ways to put the power of mind control to good use. Dr. Persinger's research focuses on brain trauma, and he uses carefully controlled doses of electromagnetic radiation to induce relaxation and alleviate pain.
So what Sandra did was to initiate a opiate releasing pattern. That's a burst firing field that is stimulated once every 4 seconds. And that produces relaxation and a very pleasant sensation. Similarly, using the appropriate fields, we can induce fear and apprehension, but clearly that would be unethical in that setting.
Dr. Persinger's tests suggest that carefully programmed electromagnetic frequencies can tap into individual brains and influence people's emotions.
The cognitive processes of the human brain are really quite simple. And if you understand how they work, you can make entire populations think and decide the manner in which you wish.
Many experts are skeptical of such an Orwellian scenario, but Persinger thinks the implications are chillingly real.
Suppose you generate a field that produces fear, fundamental fear, in large numbers of people. And then, over the television, more traditional way, as you say, the reason we're having this fear is because of this particular group. And now you start to move the population believing in a direction that you wish.
To influence 250 million people, the equivalent of the entire population of the United States, may not be that difficult. According to Dr. Persinger, we already have the technology, satellites and television, and radio transmitters. Mind control may already be happening. We know the mysterious PSYOPs plane can beam persuasive sounds and pictures into people's television sets. Will it someday beam disturbing frequencies directly into the mind? Mind control will be the ultimate non-lethal weapon.
Most people kind of in the back of their mind know there's something going on, but it doesn't have anything to do with football or basketball or my paying my rent, so I don't want to fool with it. It's not important.
Yeah,
but everybody kind of feels there's something going on.
Yeah, because most people live in a box, and they don't want to come out of the box.
No doubt about it.
They open the lid every so now and again and just peep outside and they close it.
Yep.
Do you think the governments are going to let us know at some point?
I think, I'll tell you what, again, it's just my opinion. Norio Hayakawa is a very good friend of mine. He's rather famous in the speaking circuit. And he's always talking about how he believes that the government is going to stage some kind of a UFO landing, and it's going to frighten everybody, and all the nations will come together and collectively come together as a trick.
Like a War of the Worlds.
Yeah, like a War of the Worlds.
Right.
And it's all going to be a trick, he thinks.
Right.
It's all going to be planned. Wait a minute, if you're going to get there's a lot of intelligent people in this world, and governments are not stupid. So if you're going to pull off something like that, it better look good. Because it's going to be
absolutely
right. It better look good and very realistic. I have then said I can look at the same facts that he's stating and come up with a different conclusion. I'm of the opinion that very well possibly there's going to be an alien invasion. And the government knows it.
Right.
And consequently, they are trying to prepare the people so that they don't react. Because that was, as far as I'm concerned, that was a CIA operation when Orson Welles back in the late 30s, 38, 39, did that War of the Worlds thing on radio. I'm sure the CIA was involved in that. And they wanted to see how the people will react if the people really thought that there was an alien invasion from another world. It was called War of the Worlds.
Right.
With Orson Welles, and people went berserk. Well, I don't think they're going to go berserk today. I think too many people in this world have already had experiences. They know something's up.
This is Rap the News.
Parcă să mișcă dacă încet. Păi da, dar ar trebui să audă un zgomot ceva.
So this just happened in England. Got strange lights in the sky.
Dar îți face și roșu.
It is time for something to go down, people.
Dar e din cer, nu e de jos.
Okay, we've been having these strange lights on the horizon for many moons now. And I've been warning everybody, you know, I wouldn't even be surprised if their power is out.
In secret, whatever you perceive as the state of technology in the public eye, the very cutting edge, in secret they are a minimum of 50 to 100 years ahead, to the point where science fiction is no longer fiction and hasn't been for quite some time, but is in all actuality science fact.
They were completely man-made, using off-the-shelf components. Now, if we break this down, you can see the upper crew compartment had a crew of 4. Pilots sat in a ACES-2 seat ejection seat system that taken directly off the F-4 Phantom. There were 6 CCD cameras and 1 on top for a total of 7. They could all be slewed in conjunction to produce an artificial image on the inside of the pilot's visor, directly like the Apache helicopter. There was a submarine hatch port right in this location. Also a interesting Wimshurst generator flywheel here. There was a 12-foot diameter Tesla coil here, 35-degree swept panels that were made out of a composite. The aerospace engineer who saw these said that these things looked like they had been around for decades. There were grease stains and
if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet?
We are being exploited and looted by an elite. We have created an economical order that only benefits a few, while most of humanity is doomed to live tired, stressful and meaningless lives. Our environment is being destroyed, our waters polluted and our food poisoned. How can we allow to be so easily enslaved by a few? How is it possible that billions of human beings are exploited by a minority, and nobody seems to care about it? How come we have become so disengaged and so unconcerned towards the problems around us? Why is it that the masses have become so apathetic? Where are the revolutions? Why we don't stand up and face the rulers of our life? Clearly something is going wrong. And in this video I will reveal what is it. The problem is that since the day we are born we are targeted with a variety of mind control techniques that have achieved to create a population of non-thinking, unconcerned human beings. We have become cattle. And in this video, that I hope the viewer will have the patience to see, I will reveal the 9 most used techniques by the elites to enslave our minds and keep the exploited population under control.
Which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process.
One reason why the masses are so calm is because they think they are free. They do not realize they are not. The political system, it's been set up in a way that makes us believe that we have choice, that we can vote and decide the fate of our country, but that cannot be further from the truth. The true rulers of our nations are the financial elites who control the banking system. Since long time ago, the elites have created a political system that give the masses the illusion they are free, while the bankers pull the strings hidden behind the political arena. As Rothschild said once, "Let me issue and control a nation money, and I care not who makes its laws."
The owners of this country are the voters of this country.
You're wrong about that, my friend.
Aren't the owners of this country the voters in this country who elected George Bush?
Not. Listen, politics, these elections are a charade. It is a charade.
Okay.
It is, they are meant to... I'll tell you, listen, just listen for a minute. Learn a little something. The elections and politicians are in place in order to give Americans the illusion that they have freedom of choice. You don't really have choice.
We are being constantly entertained. One key to maintain the masses under control is to keep them distracted. You can rob the people, and you can poison them. As long as they are paying attention somewhere else, they will not realize it. The elites will promote and fund any kind of technology or entertainment that will keep the masses distracted and busy staring at a virtual world. They will flood our societies with pornography, video games and drugs, to ensure that the unhappy citizens turn to these distractions when they are unhappy and bored, instead of turning against the elites, the cause of their unhappiness.
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. He has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world, so that they don't have the time to learn what the truth is, so they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated, so they don't ever question the emperor.
Another tool used to keep the people apathetic towards the exploitation is to dumb down the population. The elites don't want a well-informed, well-educated population. That would be too dangerous for the current socio-economical order that benefits the elites. As John Rockefeller said, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." They want you to be ignorant, to be stupid. They don't want you to understand how the economy works. They don't want you to think by yourself. What they want is to ensure that you know so little about the world that surrounds you, that you are unable to realize that you are being looted in front of your eyes. To achieve that goal, they will place you in the educational system, where you will be indoctrinated to become an obedient citizen. By the time you will have finished your education, all your intellectual curiosity will have been killed, all your passion for learning will be gone, and all you will have, it's a deep lack of knowledge about the world. Another tool they use is brainwashing. They will use the media, the advertisements, the education, the movies, to instill in your mind aspirations, attitudes and behaviors that will turn you into a non-thinking creature. They do not want you to care about the world. They don't want you to be altruistic. They don't want you to read books. What they want is to implant in your mind values, preoccupations and complexes that will turn you into a selfish, materialistic and ignorant creature who will be easily exploited by an elite.
Social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debate. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the censor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas.
Another weapon they use to mind control the population is through implanting hatred in their minds. The elites don't want a united population. That would be too dangerous for the economical order. They need the masses to be divided and to be confronted with each other. We live under an economical system that is unfair for the majority of the population. Unhappiness and discontent will be rampant among the citizens, and the elites don't want you to turn against them. They don't want you to realize that your unhappiness stems from the unfair economical system they have created, and to achieve that, they will bombard you with propaganda and lies, to persuade you that the real problems you experience come from someone else. A common scapegoat blamed by the elites tend to be the immigrants. We can see now in US or in United Kingdom how the immigrants have been the main topic of the political debates, when the real reason of the hardships we are going through are the greediness of the bankers. Another tool used by the elites will be fear and terror. Sometimes the elites require the masses to be scared. Sometimes the establishment need to wage imperialistic wars, or need to curtail your rights to keep the masses subjugated, and to achieve that, they will put you in such a state of fear that you will eventually allow your government to wage a war or to curtail your rights, so that you can feel safe again. To scare the citizens, the elites use mainly two methods: propaganda and false flag terror attacks against their own population. 9/11 is one of the many examples of terrorist attacks against the own population orchestrated by the elites to terrorize the masses and manipulate their minds. A clear example of propaganda to scare the ignorant masses was that Iraq, a poor country devastated by 1 decade of US bombings, had weapons of mass destruction.
Ballistic missiles, chemical or biological weapons of chemical or biological attack, nuclear holy warriors, nuclear program, nuclear weapons, nuclear weapon, nuclear technology, biological, chemical, or a nuclear weapon. Thanks for coming.
Another way to keep the masses subjugated is to make us believe in a fake reality. The history has been twisted. The news are giving us a biased view of the world. The music industry is brainwashing us with stupid messages. The documentaries are lying at us. The elite controls all we see and all we watch. They are cleverly manipulating our worldview to turn us into controllable and ignorant beings. To keep the masses subjugated is indispensable to make them live in an illusory world. Otherwise, they could find out their condition of slaves. The elites need to create a fake reality, to give them the illusion they are free. Another tool used to keep the masses in a deep state of ignorance is the censorship. The enlightened people are killed, the free-thinking journalists are silenced, the whistleblowers incarcerated, and the teachers who speak the truth are fired. That's the modern and liberal societies where most of the masses think they live. Through censorship in the media industry, and in the educational system, the elites can prevent the masses from waking up and realize that they are living in a prison. We are basically free-range slaves.
Well, I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. But seeing right now, within the last months, how far, how the German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia. This is a point of no return, and I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I have done in the past, to manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past, because they are bribed to betray the people, not only in Germany, all over Europe.
Another tool to control the masses is through keeping the citizens busy since the first day they can start thinking by themselves. A human being with free time poses a threat for the system. Free time would allow individuals to think, to develop passions, to wake up spiritually. That's too dangerous for the current socio-economical order. If the elites want to exploit the masses, they need to kill the individual. They cannot allow you to develop your own personality and think by yourself. To control the population, it's a must to keep the citizens busy and with no free time. Then, they will become robots. They will not know themselves. They will not know who they are or what they like. Have you ever wondered why so many people is lost? Why nobody seems to know what to do with their lives? If you turn the people into zombies, who don't know who they are, who do not have values, then, you can easily exploit them. As we have seen, if the masses have become so apathetic towards the misery, the poverty and the destruction around them, it's because there are very powerful individuals and institutions who are using a wide variety of techniques to control what we see, what we learn and what we think, in order to control our minds and create a population of submissive, apathetic creatures, who can be easily exploitable. We have become cattle. The earth have become a farm. Now my question is, are you a cattle, or are you a human being? I hope this video have somehow helped the viewer to become a little bit more awake.
You're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. Thank you.
In case you find these videos useful, please share them with others so we can help them too. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more videos and updates. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Peace.